Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Caring View Chat Show. So I hope everybody is okay tonight and you've all enjoyed our first 2 shows. We certainly have. So we've had a great response from our discussion last week, which was on mandating COVID vaccines in care homes. We've had lots of discussion following it on both our Facebook and Twitter. And we will follow up on this once a decision has been made at the end of May. Just want to remind everybody that everything that we say tonight are not the views of the companies that we work for, but are our own views. So tonight we are going to be discussing the guidance which was issued by the government on the 7th of April in regard to visits outside of care homes. So for over a year now, apart from if residents are required to go to hospital for outpatient appointments or brief admissions, basically anybody living in a care home has not been out of the grounds of that care home. They've not been part of the community or allowed to visit shops, go to relatives' homes, or even go for a walk. But the guidance states that this can now happen. However, what the guidance says is that on return to their care home, they must isolate in their rooms for 14 days. It states that the reason behind this is that they may unknowingly become infected whilst outside of the home. And then they may possibly pass that infection onto other residents or staff within the home. Now, we want you to join in this discussion tonight because we feel that it is a really important one. We want you to tell us what you think. So please use our chat facility on this website. Please make comments and please ask us questions. Please also subscribe to the Caring View by hitting the bell. We want as much discussion on this as possible. Now, in regard to this, for the past few days, we've also been running a poll on whether people actually agree with this guidance. So if I ask my able assistant, Adam, to put the results up, and if you would like to cast your vote during our programme tonight, please follow the link that is up on the screen now. So the results so far show, so we've had 179 people disagree, 2 people agree, and 8 people unsure. Now, this actually doesn't surprise us in the slightest because most of the comments that we are getting are about people disagreeing. However, we do also understand, and I've certainly got people in my care home who are still fearful of going out for various reasons. And it's nice that some people are unsure because it means that they just want a bit more information or a bit more reassurance. So, Adam, I'm going to come to you first. So what actually have you been doing in your care home in regard to visits outside the home, and how's things been going?
So, well, we don't isolate for when people return. It's never been something that we consider. Our residents are more than free to be able to go out with the relatives. I mean, we've had people going out for walks since early December now. We've got people going out, driving around in the cars, going back home, sitting on benches at people's houses, going in the back gardens. All the people that they are seeing are tested. We're making sure that our relatives are adhering to our policies. So for us, there's no safety concerns. We've had the discussion with relatives. We've had the discussion with the residents. None of them want to isolate on return. They all understand the potential risks that come with it, but everyone else thinks it is just ridiculous. So it's not something we're doing. I don't agree with it. I mean, to the point now where I don't know whether I should say this on, I don't know, live TV. We don't actually isolate for the full 14-day period now when people move into the care home if they've had both vaccines. If you've had both vaccines, you have a PCR test before you move in, which comes back negative. You have a PCR test when you do move in, which comes back negative, and a number of LFD tests that all come back negative. Why should you have to isolate for further sort of 10 days? So we are actually reducing that isolation period now because that itself is having a really negative impact and effect on people. But that's just it.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue, and you're quite right, Adam. But I mean, that's nice to hear that you've actually already been going above and beyond. I mean, for you doing visits out since December is like, what are we now? May, so 5 months before, and you're already doing visits to other people's homes. Now, if 5 months worth of evidence isn't enough, like you say, you're following the government guidance in regarding to infection control and PPE and everything.
And just to add, still COVID free. We've never had an outbreak. We've never had one.
There you go. No, you know, evidence, you know, the evidence is there. So, I mean, Dawn, what have you been doing at your home?
So our residents didn't start going out until the weather got warmer. We weren't asked by our relatives or any of the residents actually until it got to a certain point in February. We have one resident within our residential unit who goes out every single day. He goes to his brother's grave every day. He goes around the town, and that is his choice. He is well aware of all the risks. We've had a proper conversation with him. He's given consent to be tested regularly. And at the end of the day, if that's what he wants to do, that's what we'll support him with. We've had some residents go out for afternoon tea in their relative's garden. We've had some that have gone to a pub beer garden. And it's kind of down to the relatives and that resident and obtaining the correct information. I had one relative ring me today to say it's her dad's birthday on the 8th of May, 40,000 people in a football stadium the other weekend. Can she take her dad to the beer garden for a proper glass of red wine? What am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say, no, you can't take him? And I'm not the gatekeeper at the end of the day. So it's really important to me that everybody's involved in one decision. I'm not going to discriminate and make a decision on behalf of people. It has to be really involved. And we've had lots of conversations with people. So people have been going out. And if people can go to a football stadium and cheer on their favourite football team, he can go out and have a nice glass of wine on his birthday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, true. And we've just put up a comment there that Alan Hickson has made in regard, you know, to being against human rights, just like you've said there, you know, Dawn, how can we justify that there are people out there who, let's be honest, haven't had the vaccine yet, haven't probably even had the first vaccine and the second vaccine, and they're going out, but yet residents can't. And just looking at the chat box, we've had another comment as well from Aisha, and, you know, she's actually mentioned about staff in care homes there. And we've got to remember this. So the staff in the care homes are going home every day. They're now going to the hairdressers. They're probably now going back down to Primark and various other places. And they're coming back to work the day afterwards. So what actually is the difference, you know, between a resident and a staff member? I mean, coming to you, Mark, you know, you obviously come from a learning disabilities background. And I personally feel that it's much more important to perhaps keep that family together when you're talking learning disabilities. When we're talking in elderly, we're talking to the elderly person, you know, sometimes actually, you know, might not know or whatever, but in learning disabilities and we're dealing with younger people, I mean, how did you find it and what were people's kind of views there?
Yeah, I think in the early days, you know, it was very hard. We had people that were used to seeing their parents, you know, every day as part of their routine, and some that used to see them weekly, and then to suddenly go from that to nothing, and then not being able to see people and not comprehend, you know, this is how to use a video call. And the same obviously with you guys and people living with dementia, you know, they can't use the technology, you know, seeing somebody on the screen just isn't the same as being there in person. And I think Dawn's absolutely right, you know, you've got thousands and thousands of people going to, you know, football matches. I saw that, you know, the Brit Awards are inviting people to go. Yeah. And it's key workers of all people. So it's going to be people like you and I, you know, that work in the industry. And then people in the care home just can't go out. And it's absolutely ludicrous to me. And I think, you know, we've got people like Matt Hancock that have, you know, made these guidelines for social care, but yet there's pictures of him on social media out playing football in a busy park on a summer's day. And it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, to me, it's just nonsense.
Did any of you see that video with Matt Hancock walking up to Downing Street with his mask on? So he's walking up to Downing Street like this. So, the cameras are looking at me, the cameras are looking at me, and he walks through the door and he went...
And he takes it off.
I mean...
Yeah. I mean,
and he's the one telling us they've got to isolate.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to throw something in controversial about the government because I've done a bit of research about this and kind of sort of why are they saying this about care homes? And every single thing I read, and this also goes back to our conversation last week about the mandating vaccines, is that care homes and care home residents are the most vulnerable. Because from all the statistics that they've got last year on where were the most COVID deaths, it was in the care home population. But dare I ask why it was most deaths in the care home population? Was that from care home failings, or was that from the government failings? Was it because the government didn't give us access to testing? You know, I know that Adam in his care home bought his own testing kits because he couldn't get them from the government. You know, was it that we were pressurized beyond pressure to accept people from hospitals because that was what we were meant to do? The hospitals were overloaded and we needed to take people. So the statistics, are they really all our fault? So is it really fair to say that we're the worst category, or were we made the worst category? So I feel that some of this guidance that's coming out now is on the back of some false statistics. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think, you know, you're completely right. I think in the early days, the government made such humongous errors that resulted in the deaths of thousands and thousands of people that were completely unnecessary. And I think now they've gone the complete opposite way, that have almost made it like a jail. In fact, it's probably worse than a jail, because I bet, you know, they're probably well, Adam, I know that you made it common knowledge the other day that you had somebody coming from a jail to do a visit. So they're going out, and I bet they're not self-isolating in a cell for 14 days.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, what really, really, really irritates me is I will never forget this. Back in April and May last year, we were told categorically, you cannot request people to be tested when they're moving into your care home. Period. Full stop. Exclamation point. You can't refuse to take people into your care home. You don't need to wear masks. This is the guidance. You know, we can't even buy masks. August last year, we're not going to commit to regularly testing people in care homes. I remember that it was Sunday, I think it was, Matt Hancock came out and said that. And it was like, well, all of a sudden, we don't actually matter now. All these deaths happen. And then this year, it's like, we've got the vaccine. You know, people have been double dosed in care homes. Most of the staff have got the second dose in care homes. Lancashire, 83% uptake of the vaccine within elderly care, in social care in Lancashire. Nothing like the 40% people are touting. We're 83%. So why all of a sudden are we going backwards? Why all of a sudden we're going, right, well, actually, you can't do this, you can't do that. The new guidance is take your mask off and change it every time you come within 2 meters of somebody, and that's not changing. No one's, you know, shifting the goalposts on that yet. So why all of a sudden are we going backwards? Is it because they just want to cover their own backs in case something else happens?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it is. So I think at this point, it would be great to bring in our 2 guests for tonight's show. So we're really, really pleased to have our 2 guests on tonight. So we've got Diane, and Diane Mayhew is the co-founder of Rights for Residents, alongside her partner Jenny Morrison. And they've been fighting now for a year, basically for the full stop the rights of people in care homes. And also really, really pleased to welcome Shakila. And Shakila has a son, Jake, who has got learning disabilities and cerebral palsy. And he lives in a residential care home. And he's absolutely desperate to come out of that home and visit his family and not have to go back into isolation again. So if I can come to you first, Diane, I mean, what reaction have you had from Rights for Residents in regard to this guidance?
Well, as you can probably imagine, Donna, our members are absolutely up in arms over this because it just doesn't make any sense at all. And I do have to agree with Adam that, the government keeps saying they're protecting residents. It's for their own safety, their own protection. I beg to differ. It's for their protection. They are terrified to be blamed for any future COVID entering into the care homes, I believe. But our members are really upset about this. There's no rationale behind it. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's not logical. And when you consider that these people have been cooped up in a small room for the majority of cases for over 13 months, And now that everybody else in society is allowed out, and as you said, to go to outdoor events, indoor events as well, then it just makes no sense that they cannot come out to go for, you know, a coffee or a walk in the park if they're able, or if they're in a wheelchair, you know, to be wheeled into the park. I think the other thing is as well, there's the vitamin D deficiency issue that nobody's really mentioned. And, you know, people with diabetes can't take the medication for vitamin D deficiency. So the only way that they're going to get any help with that is to go outside into the sunshine. And, you know, Rights for Residents have talked a lot about mental health and well-being and the isolation that's caused a downturn and decline in people's mental health and well-being. Well, these past few days, the sun's been shining. How have you all felt? It literally...
So much better. Yeah.
It lifts your spirits, doesn't it? Well, that's the same for people who live in care homes. You know, we've noticed a difference in Mum. When the sun's shining, she's just in a better mood, and that's just coming through the window. So imagine how she'd feel if we could take her out. She doesn't understand why she can't go out, and she's not alone, because neither do I, quite frankly. And, you know, it's funny because the government have invested a fortune on this new advertising campaign. I don't know if you've seen it on bus shelters, it's everywhere. And they're saying for people in society to meet outdoors because it's safer. You know, they say that particles blow away. So what is the issue? We've got testing, for goodness sake. Why can't they just take a test upon the return and, you know, and just go back into the home without punishing them with this 14-day isolation? And I can't talk for all care providers, but what I would say is that we did have an email from the Care Provider Alliance last week asking us if we would chip in to a legal challenge against the government on this issue. Now, another campaign group's already done that, as we well know. But he is, you know, representing other care providers in the CPA, and they don't agree with it either. So the care providers, the majority of the care providers don't agree. The residents don't agree. The relatives don't agree. So, you know, what we're gathering is that this is coming purely from Public Health England, and there doesn't seem to be any substance behind the reasoning. So until they tell us a good reason, I'm out.
But I think you said it just there, Di, and I think that's the thing, is there is no logic to it. There is absolutely no logic. But yet if you read the guidance and you ask the question to the guidance why, the two reasons it's giving is, one, in case they unknowingly become infected. So my question to that is, what was the point of them being double vaccinated then? Exactly. What's the point of them being double vaccinated? Some of my residents who've been out, they've even said, I want to wear a mask. So they're happy to wear a mask. Also, these relatives, I mean, the pictures that I've put on our social media, there's actually been nobody anywhere near them. They're not going to, they're not going down to the local huge massive shopping centre. They're just wanting to go to even just a walk around the block or something, you know. And then the second reason is to minimise the chance of passing the infection on to other residents. Okay, I get that. And staff. Now that bit I don't get, because we've had the conversation before you came on air that residents are at risk to the staff. Can someone please logically explain to me how the staff who are going home, going to the hairdressers, going to Primark, not a risk to the residents? There is just no logic to it at all.
No. And I think, you know, I think carers would agree with that as well, because, I mean, there was something about they're holding an indoor snooker event now, and they're allowing people to manage their own risk. And, you know, just because you live in a care home, have you got no rights at all? You know, have they just all gone completely? It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we met with Helen Waitley last Tuesday, and you can imagine the tone of the conversation on this issue amongst others. And her response was, yes, but carers have to go in. they have to go in. Because I said, but carers are going to hairdressers, they're going shopping, all the non-essential shops are now open. You know, they're allowed to go to all these sporting events, indoor, outdoor. It makes no sense. And she said, yes, but they have to go in. Well, you know, the residents have to come out. I'm sorry, but they have to come out.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it comes from a severe lack of understanding that this is someone's home. I mean, I don't know about you, Shakila. What's it like for your son? Is it seem like his home for your son?
It's ridiculous. It's just everything that you've said so far and some more. To me, it's the discrimination. I mean, looking at the Human Rights Act, Article 14 says there people that are treated less favourably just because they're either elderly, they're vulnerable. That should not be happening. That's a valid reason, and it is because our loved ones, we've chosen to put them in a care setting for whatever reason. It's very different. And I know my son's really young, but this isn't what I signed up for. And I know we weren't expecting COVID, but when we,
but Shakila,
sorry,
I was just say, tell us the story about Jake. Tell us what Jake would have done in 2019 pre-COVID. What would he normally have done?
So he would be coming, we'd be bugging the hell out of him, to be honest with you. We literally don't even, we've got such a great relationship with the care home. We open door policy, so we know the code to get in. We can turn up when we want to. So we go in on a Wednesday night, we'd have tea together in his room. There's a conservatory attached. It's a massive care. There's lots and lots of, land attached to it. So we take the dog with us. I've got 2 other children. Then every other weekend he would come home. So I'd finish work early on a Friday, pick him up, and he'd be home. Obviously other extended family members would come here and see him. He does like to go to the pub, so we do go to the pub. We go and watch the football. All those regular things that we all like to do. And that there was a stop to that obviously March last year. Massive change, a massive decline in his kind of mental health. His communication is all right. He can make his needs known. He can express them verbally. But Zoom, doing calls like this with him was the next thing that we tried to do. The care home weren't really set up for that, so that took a while to get going. And as the weeks and weeks, the months and months went on, you could just say he's the best way. He's a gobby so-and-so, a bit like his mum. So he engages. If he doesn't like something, he'll shout out and he'll let you know. He was getting quieter and quieter, Joe, and seeing it. And he's not one to. The only time he would ever cry, and I mean this genuinely, you'd have to have a limb missing because his pain threshold is amazing. So the only thing I can put it down to, he was proper sad, just really upset, really. I'd even say depressed of not being able to see us, and we've all got such a close bond. I mean, there's 8 of us all together in his immediate family that he sees regularly week to week, and that's we've not done that for like everybody else says. We haven't been operating as a regular family for the last 14 months. It's making me want to just go and break him out of there. I think I said it on our page. It's making me question everything. And whilst we can advocate for them, we're just coming up against a brick wall, and then there's no clarity. It's so different. Like someone in a care home in, I don't know, in Cambridgeshire, the things that they're experiencing are completely different to what I'm allowed to do. And I don't understand that disparity between the care homes. Surely it should be the same across the board. And
it should. Yeah. Have you approached the manager at all in regard to this? I mean, how has the care home been with you?
Fabulous. I feel very lucky, and I'm trying to be looking for the positives where there's lots of negatives in the world at the minute. So I can ring when I want, I can do FaceTime when I want, we can go. It's been extended that you can have 2 essential caregivers or 2 members of your family going into the home, but we have to do a lateral flow test, so we can do all of that, and I can see him. The stickler for me is I'm desperate to bring him home, but I can't. He has to isolate for that 14 days, and we did it at Christmas. We brought him home for 2 weeks, and it just zeroed out the benefits of him being home for Christmas, because his little face, bless him, when we were FaceTiming him every other day for those 2 weeks after Christmas, which is when we went into that second lockdown in beginning of January. It was rubbish. That's my polite response to it, and I don't want him to go through that again.
No. And do you think he understands? Because I can imagine as a parent talking to a child, I think it's slightly different when we're dealing with kind of elderly people. But as the parent, you're there. Your role in life is to protect that child, to protect them from harm. So I imagine that when you do go in to see him, you want to be all smiles and happy. And for that period of time that you're with him, you want it to be the happiest time possible. You know, so how do you think he feels that you know, does he ask to come home at all?
He's very clear in what he wants. There's no, Donna, there's no misconstruing what he wants. I mean, when we had those silly screens in place, I'm glad that they've been removed at the minute, but he was asking for a hug. His thing is a hug and a kiss. It's a standard thing with all our family members. As soon as we see anyone, hug, and it's mummy, hug, kiss. And I'm sat there thinking, what do I say to that? And then the next breath, even now when we see him, home, our dog's called, we've got a German Shepherd, Penny, walk. And I'm just kind of like trying to, next time, soon. There's only so many times I can say it. And it's, like I say, it's just having a detrimental effect every time I'm saying that, because what's going through his head, I don't know. He's got great understanding, but I couldn't explain COVID to him. He just wouldn't grasp that. All he's saying is black and white of, my mum's not taking me home. Why can't I go home? Like he probably would do the weekend. And
it's heartbreaking. It's almost as if the story isn't real. It's almost that heartbreaking. It's like we're watching a film or something. It just doesn't seem right that in this world that we're living in, not just this day or anything, this entire world that we're living in, that we're letting this kind of thing happen. I mean, I'm just going to pass over to Dawn now, because Dawn's got about 20 children, by the way. She's got a bit of a blended family. So I just want to ask you, I mean, Dawn, listening to that, how would you feel if you couldn't properly see any one of your children for a year and couldn't have them at your house? If they were stuck at school, at a boarding school, and couldn't come home, how would that make you feel?
It's heartbreaking. I was listening to you then, and I've got tears in my eyes, because I could not imagine. And as much as they annoy me most of the time, I don't have a favourite one, believe me. But as much as they annoy me most of the time, not physically being able to see them every day it just makes me feel quite unwell, because I text them, I contact them, they walk in and out. They might not, at the moment, one of my children went and queued up at Primark the other day with his girlfriend, because they're allowed to do that now. So the thought that they wouldn't have that freedom either, they've really struggled, especially my 15-year-old and my 13-year-old stepdaughter have really struggled with COVID and the lockdown and not being able to see their friends or form that kind of friendship with people that they see in school every week, but then aren't allowed to meet up with at weekends, or they're not allowed to hug granddad, but they've been at school all week, or they've been to the shops. So they've really struggled. So how this must feel for you must be heart-wrenching every day. And I just offer you as much support as we can all give, because it must be horrendous.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm going to go to Mark now as well, to kind of do the kind of flip side, because we know that Mark spent all of last year away from his children, and that was Mark's choice to keep his family safe. But I mean, what effect did that have on you as a parent, Mark?
You know, it's incredibly hard. And I think I was lucky enough that my children could understand what the virus was, and they had, you know, the capacity to at least take it in some shape or form. But I wasn't going to meet them behind a plastic screen. You know, I just made the decision that I wouldn't meet them at all, because we tried it a couple of times and it just ended in tears, you know, hanging out of a car window in the middle of a car park somewhere, you know. And it used to break my heart driving away, knowing that they were all leaving, crying in the back of the car, because all they wanted to do was get out and give me a cuddle or a hug. And yeah, you know, going back to learning disabilities, my biggest worry is that we've spent so much time making people as independent as possible, getting them, you know, used to public transport, going to shops on their own, and now they've been isolated and, you know, locked away for over a year. you know, where have all those skills gone? You know, are we going to have people that were going out on their own before, you know, weren't locked inside care homes that now can't use, you know, the regular bus run? You know, what about those that had volunteer jobs or went to college? You know, they're losing out on all their placements.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not just lock them down for 14 days. The government hasn't seen the long-term picture of the impact that it has on these people's lives. And I think, you know, when we get out of the other side, even if they, you know, got rid of the 14-day isolation period today and people started going back out, they've been away from people for so long. It's then going to be integrating people back into community. We're going to have people that are extremely worried about the virus. And I think, you know, they've now got their own routines. People with autism will now be just routine to that life inside the home. Are they going to be able to routine themselves back outside the home? That's a big worry for parents.
I think that's a really interesting thing to say there. I don't think we realise that people with learning disabilities and kind of younger adults, yes, they are in residential care, you know, for a reason, for a very valid reason, but a huge part of their life is still to be part of the community. Yeah. You know, and like you mentioned there, not just being out in community, but actually working out in the community. And, you know, we've mentioned mental health there. It's like you said, are they going to recover? Are they actually going to recover from this? And, you know, I really, really, truly don't think that the government actually realise the harm that they're doing. And I really would love to know. I'm sure the answer is no, but if anybody out there knows, if anybody in the government has ever stepped foot actually into a care home and actually knows the type of residents we look after, what we actually do and how much we actually care, I honestly would be amazed. So Matt, Boris, Helen, anybody, come on down, please. You know, you are more than welcome to actually come and see what we do and actually come and talk to our residents. You know, we're being their voices. We're talking as the managers, the providers, the relatives. Come and talk to them, because I'll tell you something. If you went in to see Jake and you didn't change this guidance, you shouldn't even be, you know, in the job that you're in, because to me it's disgraceful.
I think
sorry, I'd love just 5 minutes with Matt Hancock, and I'd just shoot a load of holes through every single policy that's out there at the minute. And the responses that I got through through Jake's MP Bill Esterson, that took my question direct to the parliamentary question table as such. The response that I got back was Helen Whately that responded to that, and it was just ridiculous. It was just laughable. I read the first 2 lines of it and then just had to put it aside, because, like I say, it just made me want to go and get Jake and just hand him notice and to go back to how it was before, but market it the nail on the head, the independent side of it. That's why I chose Jake and care home aside from everything else. And it's almost as if the last 25, he's nearly 26 now. That's all that we've ever strived for Jake, is to be independent. He's got a voice, and he's able to kind of get his needs known to a point, and then the rest of it is, you know, we put so much faith into the health and social care side of it, and it's a huge background. There's no real support at the minute at all for any of our loved ones that are in care homes.
I think, you know, we've talked throughout the pandemic about this balance of risk, and there hasn't ever been a balance, because the government can only see COVID and, you know, all the things that come with COVID. But as Mark's just said, they've totally disempowered these young people. You know, they've stripped them of the confidence, of the abilities that they developed. I mean, even for us, you know, going back, I mean, Jenny and I have literally not really done anything, and we went out for the first time today, and I felt quite, I was nervous. I mean, I had my mask on and, you know, social distance and all the rest. We didn't go indoors or anything like that. But it's quite frightening when you've been inside for 13 months. So for these young people, I mean, it is bad enough for the elderly, but honestly, Shakila, I can't imagine. I could cry, because to be a mother torn apart from her son, it's it's like something out of A Handmaid's Tale or a dystopian film or something. It's unbelievable. And I do think we'll all look back on this and think, how did we allow this to happen? But how the hell do we stop it? You know, we're trying so hard, but unless they actually, as you said, Donna, speak to the people that are directly involved, like the care providers, the relatives who are affected, and the residents, instead of organisations that aren't directly affected by this issue, I can't see how we are ever going to move forward.
I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Diane, because, I mean, how many months, I mean, you know Donna, Dawn, Mark, and myself, and how many months have we campaigned and lobbied for people like Helen Whately, Matt Hancock, Boris Johnson, anyone at all to come and talk to us? So, heck, I even had Susanna Reid on Good Morning Britain throw at Matt Hancock, go and talk to Adam Pennell, because he'll tell you what he's doing and how to work it properly. And not one of them have come to us. And yet I went on Twitter and saw Helen Whately sat there on a Zoom session with a face mask and a visor, talking to a care home where we're all visored up in face masks, doing Zoom meetings and screen visiting, and congratulating on how they're thinking outside the box. It's absolutely ridiculous. And for the last couple of months, we've been telling people that this is going to kill people more than the actual viruses. And lo and behold, now that COVID is no longer the biggest killer in the UK, guess what is? Alzheimer's. 10.1% of all deaths in the UK is Alzheimer's. Now, I've not got the stats to hand. I don't know what it was last year, but one would question whether that's increased now because of the fact that we've locked the doors, we've shut people out. And with disempowering people, we've allowed that risk-averse nature to creep back into social care. It took years to eradicate it, and all of a sudden it's become acceptable again. And trying to get that out now is like going to try and get a verruca out. It's going to be difficult to try and get people to reverse that way of thinking and to get rid of that risk-averse nature and be positive about what we're doing. My heart breaks. It's damaged social care now for a number of years. And I don't think social care is indefensible. I don't think that social care is beyond repair. I think as long as we can admit there's a fault within social care and we can own that fault and we can move forwards. You and I, Diane, we were doing a no going back conference, weren't we? Communication, culture, community. That's what makes it moving forwards.
Absolutely. And I think that is the thing with the communication side of it, because Helen Whately said, well, there are people in forums that don't want this. They don't want, but it's about talking to those people and explaining how it can be done safely and that it's not going to put their loved ones at risk. But nobody's talking to anybody. And you guys, do you know what? I take my hat off to you, because doing this is just amazing. What you lot have done. You're talking to each other, you're talking to us, you want to engage, you want things to change for the better, and you are opening up discussion. And that is so needed. And yet, we feel like it is falling on deaf ears. I do think in the end, they will drop this 14-day isolation. I do think they will, because there's been far too much uproar about it. But, you shouldn't have to fight for every morsel of freedom or human right just because you live in a care home. It's ridiculous.
It isn't. And talking there about risk, I'm going to come to Adam because I know you're well ahead of us kind of with your paperwork, but we talk about people being too risk averse. We've lived in care homes for years with risk assessments. We risk assess walking through the front door every day. We risk assess pressure sores. We might not be able to stop them because we have some people who are non-compliant. We have some people who refuse to eat. We've been risk assessing for years the risk of falls. We can refer to falls advisors. We can put equipment in place. Can we truly really stop somebody falling? No, we can't. It's all about reducing the risk to the lowest practicable level. It's not about completely eliminating the risk altogether. And this is what I don't think they understand. I mean, Adam, from the very beginning, you started doing risk assessments, and that's how you kind of sort of pioneered doing these visits indoors because you did your risk assessments and went, well, I've covered this and I've covered this and I've covered this. So, I mean, what kind of things were you looking at?
Well, to start off with, I think we need to start doing risk assessments because they become unhealthy. You can end up risk assessing everything. I need to risk assess the fact that I risk assessing. But for me, it's loopholes. I mean, Rights for Residents will know. I said from the very beginning, we can't stop people falling, but we don't stop them walking. We can't stop people choking, but we don't stop them eating. So why should we stop people seeing their loved ones? We're not going to prevent everything. So why should we stop it? But for me, it was just loopholes. Have a look at the guidance, because it is guidance. Nothing's set in stone. It's not enforced. There's always exceptional circumstances. There's always, loopholes that you can exploit. So have a look at those loopholes. How can you exploit them? Then how can you risk assess it? How can you make sure that everything is as safe as it can be? I mean, people see us on the TV walking around with our residents, our people we support, and they're going out with their loved ones, and everyone's going, oh, this is fantastic, it's wonderful, how are you doing it? And I'm going, well, it's nothing spectacular, it's something that they deserve. In the background, there's risk assessments that thick just to make sure we've covered absolutely everything we do. In our support group, was it the other day, was it yesterday, I uploaded some documents to help care homes on how to plan on not doing the 14-day visiting and how we can plan when people go out for visits. And the risk assessment for when a relative comes is almost 2 pages long, which, yes, I know people like Harriet Hartman rightly say visiting needs to take place naturally, and it should take place naturally. But while that guidance is there and people are quick to sue us or quick to call us out or quick to blame us, we need to make sure that we've mitigated everything in a paper trail, and all of our relatives are happy to do it if it means that they can go out, have a walk, go for a drive, go get an ice cream, no time limit, come back home, and come back the very next day if they want to. So risk assessments are important. Join our support group, use the ones that we've put in there. I can't guarantee that they're 100% correct, but that's the fun of risk assessing, it's the fun of peer-to-peer support. We get to build upon it ourselves. Nothing worse than reading the piece of guidance, and like we have done for the last 12 months, that says dynamically risk assess, and there's no example of a dynamic risk assessment to use. Just saddos like myself and Mark who sit there at our computers late till night, writing and shouting them out to everyone. You're not sad, Mark. I'm joking.
I don't take it personally. I think the thing to add, is residents in care homes or even in domiciliary care, they're not just a resident, are they? They become like your family member. And the last thing that anybody wants to do is to infect them with COVID. And I think the guidance just makes it seem like care homes don't have a clue what they're doing. The government forget that we've got PPE, we've got testing coming out of our eyeballs. These people are safe and secure. And to go around the block, it's not a risk. They're getting the fresh air. Like Diane said, they're getting the sunshine. They might bump into a neighbour, socially distanced. There is so much more to it than just, being sat inside thinking that, care staff and care home managers just don't have a clue on how to keep people safe.
I mean, the way the guidance goes, you'd think we'd have like trap doors and trip wires and stuff lying around the home because it's, we're that dangerous when we're not. Like you say, we want to do the best. We treat relatives. The guidance treats relatives like this. People attract relatives thinking that they're going to be super dangerous and coming like from the bubonic plague. But if it was my mum at home, I'd do everything I could do to keep her safe. Shaquila, you'd do everything to keep your son safe, obviously.
Yeah. So what do we think is going to happen on the 17th of May then? So, it's May this weekend. The next step 3, I think it is on the 17th of May. And, from then there is so much more opening up. We already know, we've already spoke about events happening. We know the snooker's happening at Crucible. We're all going to do so much more from then. From the 17th of May, we are going to be able to go into somebody else's house. So do we think that we've only got 3 weeks from today to be carrying on with this and it'll change? How much faith have we got that that's going to happen?
I personally have absolutely no faith. And for where I am in Essex, it's almost like everything's gone back to normal. And I know we shouldn't be in each other's houses, but people are in each other's houses, They're already going back and meeting people at the pub, going out to cafes, they're doing everything that they were doing before. And you know, whilst COVID's around and whilst government are focused so much on the impact COVID could have, I don't see how they're ever going to change the guidance, because COVID's not going away anytime soon, which in the back of my mind makes me think, is the guidance going away anytime soon?
Yeah, I agree, Mark.
Yeah. I think that, you know, we've just got to, I mean, you know, we've said that, you know, myself and Adam and Mark and Dawn, we've been banging the drum for months. Di and Jenny, you know, have been banging the drum for more months than we have. I mean, Di, do you want to just tell us what actually you are actually doing this next week?
Yes, we have been lobbying MPs as well. We've done some MP templates to try and get them to support us in our quest, because the local elections are coming up, and if they want our vote, then they need to vote for us. But on Tuesday, believe it or not, the government have banned any petitions being delivered to Downing Street. How convenient is that? So they said earlier on in the year, they said they'd revisit it in May. When Liz Kendall her assistant rang the government's office, they've now said they're not going to look at it until June. So rights residents decided that we would follow the guidance and do it safely, but we're not going to wait until June to deliver the petition. It can be delivered virtually via a memory stick. And so we're going to go down in a group of 6 only. So following the rule of 6, socially distanced in Parliament Square on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Ruthie Henshaw is joining us, so it has created a lot of media attention. And also, because Jenny and I are from Liverpool, our local TV Granada Reports have been ringing every week saying, when are you going down? When are you going down? They've been desperate to cover this, which is great. But what you will be delighted to hear is that as well as Granada Reports covering us delivering the petition, they're also spending the day in a care home of someone who is providing visits. So the balance is going to be great. You know, the petition itself, we do want the guidance to be mandatory, because as great as you guys are, there are a lot of care providers who aren't, and they're not following it. So that's the first thing that we're asking for in the petition. When you've got the likes of Martin Green, CEO of Care England, actually saying to the Human Rights Committee that the guidance is something to aspire to, then I think that tells you that we've got a big problem.
Yeah.
And the thing that we do want to get enshrined in law is not just for the future, for now as well, but if we do have more variants or another lockdown or an outbreak, then all that we've done is going to be wiped away, because they'll just stop visits altogether. So we want at least one essential visitor enshrined in law, protected for any you know, future lockdowns, tier restrictions, or outbreaks.
Well, I can assure you something, Di. We will all be there in spirit with you. We will all be thinking about you. We will all be there. Yeah, we will be like this. Go. Seriously, we will. And, you know, I just, you know, I mean, I really hope that it will do something, because I just don't know what more we can do. And like you said, we know that there are so many managers, providers out there that just are reading this guidance and they're completely ignoring that word guidance. I've heard so many say, well, all we're doing is following the guidance.
Yeah, charity.
So, you know, this is why it's got to change. They've got to change the wording in it. They've got to change what they're saying, because there are just so many out there still not doing it. And it's, you know, like you say, we're over a year now. It's absolutely just heartbreaking to continue. And, you know, we really, really do wish you all the best, and we will so be there with you and thinking of you on the day. Definitely.
But you guys have supported all. I feel like we work really well together, and we are making a difference. It is small steps, but it's distance travelled, and together we've got to believe that. I know it's slower than we'd like, but it's still moving forward, and we couldn't have done that on our own. So thank you for your support as well.
Oh, absolutely, definitely. And thank you to you as well, Shakila. You know, I know that you've been really, really trying to push Jake's story as well. And the day that I see on social media that he's gone to see his beloved Everton playing football, we'll all be shouting for him as well. Yeah, please ignore the Sheffield United plaque in the background. I love Everton, really. Please tell Jake I don't support Sheffield United. But, you know, I mean, it's been just a fantastic discussion tonight. It's been upsetting, it's been heartbreaking, but it's been true and it's been raw. And that's what this is all about. You know, this is the truth of what's happening in social care. We really, really want this discussion to continue. We know not everybody can join us live on a Tuesday night. So please follow us on Twitter. Just follow our tag, The Caring View. And also this week now, we've also set up our own Facebook group. Now, this group is for anybody who works in health and social care and anybody who has a relative or supports anybody in a health and social care setting. And the whole purpose of it is just to be there to support each other. It wants to be a platform where people can ask questions, can talk, not feel alone, you know, not feel that they're the only person out there that is suffering and feeling this pain and this heartbreak, because, you know, we want to share it together. We haven't got all the answers, most definitely not. We are no professors and, you know, these all-seeing eye or anything, but, you know, we really hope that it can bring people together. So please follow our Facebook page. Please ask to join. You know, we really want as many people to be on there. We want it to be a network for anybody at all and support each other. So please keep following us. Please keep up. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell, as Adam keeps telling me to tell everybody. But I just want to, before obviously we round up, we want to, we've been doing quite a lot of planning this week. And can I just tell you that when one of you's in Lancashire, one of you's in Essex, one of you's in Norfolk, and one of you's in Yorkshire, it's quite fun trying to organise things. Conversations get very complicated, actually, and you kind of lose track of what's happening. But I'm just going to hand over to Mark just to kind of give us a bit of a future of what's up and coming for you in the next shows.
Yes, thank you, Donna. Yeah, no, they definitely have been interesting. So trying to arrange, I think what we're keen to do is to listen to what everybody wants to hear about and to join us in the conversation about. And then we're trying to find guests every week that can join us. But you know, we're really excited. So we've listened to the feedback. We've got some great discussions coming up on mental health and supporting care workers and care managers. We've got some peer-to-peer support coming up. We've got digital care planning one week. We've also got marketing, both for care homes and for domiciliary care. So we've got some exciting conversations coming up. And, you know, we've got enough of a lineup to take us through to the end of June. But that's not to say that we don't want to still have your views and your opinions. So please keep letting us know what you want to talk about, and we'll make sure that we feed that into the show.
I think someone in the group earlier said, do we have a suggestion box for topics on the show? And I said, this entire group is a suggestion box.
Yeah.
You know, come and have a discussion in the group and talk in the group about it. It gives us loads of ideas. I think there was one today talking about consent and informed consent around social media use, wasn't there? So, yeah, really exciting.
Yeah. But, you know, John, I know you said you're not professors, you're not this, you're not that, but you live in it. You are real people with real experiences. And as far as I'm concerned, that's worth more than any academia, you know, because the stories that, and you're getting people to come forward, I think it's fantastic.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
And that's just it. We really, really do want people on this show. Us four are going to get very, very boring. Trust me. So, you know,
for yourself.
We really do want. Yeah, Adam will keep coming with a different nail colour each week. He'll keep it interesting, don't you worry. But, you know, we want to hear it from you guys out there, you know, as well. You know, you are bringing those stories that, you know, we want it to be raw. We want it to be real. So if anybody wants to come on the show and bring their story forward, you know, and we also want it to be discussion as well. We really wanted somebody on tonight who actually feels quite strongly that the guidance is the right thing, because for whatever reason they're scared or fearful, so we want a balanced discussion. That's all what this is about. So if anybody wants to come on, or anybody knows any speakers or has any suggestions for us, please contact us on our Facebook page or on Twitter in any way possible to let us know, because we really want these. We're only on episode 3 and we're already hoping that we're going to be doing this time next year, in between doing our
fair, with the number of guests that we've got interested so far, I think we will be doing it until next year.
Yes,
We've already got things lined up.
Yeah, and we have already made a promise to each other that we are going to keep going every Tuesday, even when one of us is on annual leave and it's actually me that's off first. But we are going to keep it going every single Tuesday. We've already worked out that Christmas Day isn't on a Tuesday this year, so we actually are going to get Christmas Day off. We've already worked that one out. But we intend to have some themed nights as well. So, we want to bring a bit of fun to it as well. But we just want to get as many people involved as possible, because health and social care is huge. It's bigger than the NHS. It really, truly is. And we need to get out there. We need to get known. Next time this happens, when hopefully all 4 of us have retired, we aren't going to see just these NHS banners everywhere. We're going to see health and social care banners as well, because, that's what, this is all about, and we all need to come together. So, I mean, it's just been an absolutely fantastic evening tonight. Mega thank you to you, Shakila, for telling such a heartbreaking story. Please send our love to Jake. Tell him that he's an absolute star. And thank you so much, Diane, and to Jenny, for everything that you're doing, because it's just absolutely amazing. So, anybody got any last comments at all before we wave goodnight to everybody?
I just want to say, and this is not calling celebrities out, but all these celebrities on Twitter calling about the care home crisis and how barbaric it is, talk to us. We are sharing all our positive stories. Stop just sharing the negatives. Show what can be done. There are so many on there going, I can't believe this. Have you read this? Have you seen this in care? And you'll probably see my face under every single one going, this is us. This is us. Look at what we're doing. Show that it can happen. Show that it can happen. So if you're going to tell the story, tell both sides. That's all I want to say. But thank you for bringing social care into the public image with your celebrity status. Just show both sides of what is going on, because that will inspire others to do the same.
I think, unfortunately, negativity breeds negativity, and positivity breeds positivity. So we really need to focus more on that. Even on our own Facebook page, we have quite a lot of negativity, and it spirals. And, that's not really going to help anyone. It's positive action that's going to help move things forward. So I totally agree with that, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, next week is mental health and mental well-being, which is a huge topic. It may well overspill into future shows as well. We'll all be giving our own experiences. And Dawn, who have we got as guests next week?
So we have Jackie from Ash Counselling, who is going to talk about the counselling network and the support that's being offered. We have Sarah from the Samaritans, who has been volunteering through the whole pandemic as well as working in social care. So we have some really lovely people coming to chat and discuss how we can be proactive with our support with mental health, and how social care needs that kind of increment and that well-being support. So some really lovely people coming.
Great. And I think it's going to hit home with everybody. And I think we think so much about our own physical health. We're quite happy to say when we've got a headache or when we ache or when we're tired, but to actually admit that the effect this pandemic has had on our mental health is absolutely huge. So please join us next week. We look forward to seeing you all again and hearing from you all. And final thank you to Shakila and Diane. Huge thanks. And to you.
Thank you to you guys.
So, Oh, we certainly will. So thank you so much for everybody tonight. Thank you for watching. Can we just say we've just had a final comment that Aisha has just said she can't see the bell, Adam.
Go on to YouTube, have a look at the videos. There should be a bell with the subscribe button. I think we're a bit too over now for me to be able to pull it up to show you all, but we'll make sure that for the next episode we'll show you all where the bell is.
Fabulous.
We need the bell. We need the bell. Anyway, thank you guys. Love to everybody out there. Stay safe. Keep smiling.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.